There's something strange happening to those who follow all the financial rules exactly. They work hard, save, avoid debt, and yet they remain stuck, struggling month after month without seeing any real progress. Meanwhile, those who ignore these same rules sometimes get rich much faster and with less effort. How is this possible? The answer lies in these 12 truths that seem correct, seem safe, but are destroying the money of those who believe in them. And the scariest thing, they are repeated out there as if they were golden advice. If this subject has already made you raise an eyebrow, like it now, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell because what comes next could be the key to your financial life. First rule: save whenever you can. For decades, this rule was sold as one of the pillars of financial intelligence. Save whenever you can. And many people believed that all they had to do was follow this advice to one day achieve financial freedom. But here is the brutal truth that almost no one has the courage to say. Living with an exclusive focus on saving may be preventing you from getting rich. Because the mentality behind this rule is a mentality of defense, of survival, and not of construction. It trains you to look at the world with fear of spending, fear of taking risks, fear of losing what little you have. Over time, this becomes a kind of psychological prison. Every purchase becomes a dilemma, every opportunity a threat, every penny a sacrifice. And do you know what the problem with this is? It's that you can save for 20, 30, 40 years, and still end up with little or almost nothing, because the mathematics of scarcity is thankless. No matter how much you cut, there is a limit to how much you can save. But there is no limit to how much you can grow. Think about it. Someone who earns $3,000 a month and saves 20%, which is already more than most people can, will still only save $600. Now, if that same person finds a way to generate an extra income of $1,500 a month, they double their investment capacity without cutting anything else. That's why so many smart people remain stuck, because they are trying to win the financial game with half the strategy. Saving is important, yes, but it is only one piece of the puzzle. Focusing only on that is like spending your life trying to make the boat lighter, when what you really need is to learn how to row, or better yet, build an engine. And there's more. This obsession with saving can cost you much more than you imagine. How many times do people fail to invest in knowledge because they think it is expensive? How many opportunities are ignored for fear of spending a little now and losing something in the future? How many brilliant ideas die because people chose to save money instead of betting on themselves? Blind economics stifle ambition, and suffocating ambition is suffocating your future. Meanwhile, people who have understood the true key to money are playing another game. A game where you spend strategically, where you invest in skills, connections, businesses, where the focus is on producing more value, not just spending less. Cutting out your $5 coffee a day will never make you a millionaire, but creating a business that generates $1,000 a week might. The right question is not, how can I save more? It's, what can I learn, build, or improve today that will increase my income tomorrow? Because the money you save has a ceiling, but the money you are capable of generating, that, my friend, has no limit. So, yes, continue to be smart with your money, but don't hide behind frugality as an excuse not to grow. You were not made to survive by counting pennies. You were made to thrive, and that starts when you stop thinking small. The word debt sends shivers down the spines of many people, and it's no wonder. The financial system really loves to see people buried in unpayable interest, trapped in cycles of credit cards, poorly planned financing, and loans that snowball. But here's the problem with this rule. By trying to protect, it ends up limiting. Putting all debt in the same category is like saying that all fire is destructive, ignoring the fact that, in many cases, it is fire that warms, illuminates, and transforms. There is a huge difference between stupid debt and strategic debt. The first sinks you. The second can catapult you. Stupid debt is the kind that supports a lifestyle that you can't afford yet. It's buying a $30,000 car just to look good in front of others. It's making impulse purchases with money that doesn't even exist. This type of debt enslaves you. But what if debt is used as leverage? Think about it. Most of the successful businesses you admire today only exist because someone back then had the courage to use capital they didn't have. Entrepreneurs, investors, visionaries. They all used debt as a tool, not as a crutch. An investor, for example, can take out a low-interest loan to purchase a rental property that generates positive income every month. Someone can finance the creation of a digital or physical product that pays for itself over time. A person can use credit to buy inventory, do marketing, or build authority on the internet, and thus multiply the return. Of course, it requires intelligence, planning, and, above all, intention. It's not about getting into debt on impulse, it's about using capital as an accelerator. Avoiding any and all debt is playing the game only on defense. It's living with the handbrake on. And those who only play to not lose never score goals. There are people who are afraid to take out a $5,000 loan to scale a validated business, but spend $20,000 in 4 years paying rent, without building any equity. There are people who run away from the word financing as if it were a crime, but accept spending their lives exchanging time for money, because they never had the courage to invest in something bigger. This rule, when followed blindly, is like living in a bunker waiting for the world to end. You protect yourself. But you don't build anything. The secret is to change the question. Instead of thinking, "How do I get out of debt?" what you should ask yourself is, "Does this debt bring me closer or further away from financial freedom?" If it comes with high interest rates, zero return, and is driven by impulse, run away. But if it is well calculated, has the potential to multiply, and is part of a clear strategy, maybe it is the tool that is missing. The difference between good debt and bad debt is not the amount, but the purpose. Third rule, work hard and get rewarded. This is one of the most dangerous lies disguised as virtue. Work hard and you will be rewarded. It sounds fair, it sounds moral, it sounds logical, but in the real world, that equation just doesn't add up. Millions of people are working overtime every day. They wake up early, they fight traffic, they give their all, and yet they live in the red. Stressed, tired, stuck. Why? Because today's world doesn't reward effort. It rewards impact. It's not about how tired you are, it's about how much value you create. And here's the key point that almost no one sees. Unscalable effort is an invisible trap. There's a clear ceiling to hourly earnings. $20, $30, $40 an hour can go up a bit over time, but you're still trading your life for money. Now, when you start earning per project, per result, per asset that works for you, the game changes completely. Think about how many people work 10 hours a day in 2 jobs and still barely make ends meet financially, while others spend 4 hours creating something that generates value on a recurring basis, even when they are sleeping. This has nothing to do with laziness or privilege. It has to do with vision, with strategy, with applied intelligence. The problem with blindly believing in the idea that those who work hard will be rewarded is that it makes you forget to ask, am I working on what really matters? On what grows? On what scales? A lumberjack can spend all day trying to cut down a tree with a dull knife. Another, with a very sharp saw, can solve it in minutes. Effort without direction is an elegant way to stay in the same place. What's more, this mentality also trains you to seek external recognition, hoping that someone will see your effort and, one day, decide to reward you with a raise, a promotion, a bonus. But in the real world, this rarely happens. The ones who get promoted aren't always the ones who work the hardest, but the ones who solve the most problems, the ones who think the farthest, the ones who create the most value. So, yes, working hard has its merits, but it's not enough. You have to work with intelligence, intention, and leverage. Build something that works even without you being there. Create digital assets, products, systems, communities. Invest time in skills that pay off over the years, not just by the hour. Effort is the foundation. Strategy is what builds the floors, because in the end, the one who sweats the most doesn't win. The one who makes the most impact with the least wear and tear wins. And that's the new rule of the game. It's not enough to work hard. You have to work smart, in the right place, with a long-term vision. For generations, this idea has been passed down as an emotional legacy. Owning a home is the ultimate American dream. But what few people say is that in many cases this dream has become a trap with a white picket fence, a trimmed garden, and debts until the age of 70. Buying a home is not, by definition, a mistake. The problem is treating any home as a good deal, because not every purchase is an investment, and not every brick builds wealth. Many people believe that when they buy a property, they are stop throwing money away. But here's the hidden detail. When they buy a home, they don't escape the rent. They are just trading the landlord's rent for the bank's rent. Property tax, maintenance, insurance, renovations, interest on interest are invisible installments that drain your cash flow every month. And if the purchase is made without a strategy, it can mean decades stuck in a place that gives you no return or flexibility. Meanwhile, those who choose to rent and invest the difference intelligently can see their assets grow much faster and more liquidly. Because what makes money multiply is not the walls of the house, but how hard it is working for you. Let's look at a real example. Someone buys a house for $500,000, makes a large down payment, and takes out a 30-year mortgage. At the end of the financing period, the house may have increased in value, but when all the costs are added up, the real return is often minimal. Now imagine another person who rents a good property for $2,500 a month and uses the capital that would have been used for the down payment on the house to invest in assets that pay dividends, that increase in value, that have liquidity. The first has a house. The second has freedom, liquidity, and financial growth. And there is also a factor that almost no one considers: mobility. Those who own their own property think twice before moving to take advantage of a better opportunity in another state, city, or country. On the other hand, those who rent can go where the growth is, and that is worth its weight in gold. This rule, buying a house is always a good thing, ignores the context, the moment in life, the reality of the market. And the worst part, it is often imposed with guilt, as if not buying were irresponsible or immature. But financial maturity is not about having something fixed in your name. It is about having clarity about where your money grows faster and with less risk. A home can be a home, but it is unlikely to be the asset that will accelerate your financial independence, because a property, when poorly purchased, is like a safe that you cannot open without paying a high price. Of course, there are exceptions. Buying strategically in a valued location, below market price or for rental purposes can indeed be great, but this requires calculation, not emotion, planning, not rushing, long-term vision, not just a desire to belong. What silently destroys money is not the house itself, but the blind belief that any house is a good deal. Fifth rule: get a stable job and stay there. For decades, this has been the most repeated advice from parents, teachers, and even economists. Get a good job, hold on to it with all your might, and stay there until you retire. It sounds responsible, solid, safe, but in 2025, this stability is costing you dearly, because what they call stability is often just comfort disguised as security. It means accepting a fixed salary with a paltry annual adjustment while the cost of living skyrockets. It means staying in a company where you stop growing but stay there, because a bird in the hand is better. But the world has changed, and it is changing faster and faster. New technologies are swallowing up old functions. Entire companies are being reinvented or replaced by artificial intelligence. And in this scenario, the biggest risk is not moving. It is standing still. While many cling to a badge as if it were a life jacket, the market is rewarding those who reinvent themselves, who learn new skills, who expose themselves to the discomfort of transformation. And the most curious thing, the most stable jobs today are the ones that best disguise stagnation. You may even be safe, but you may also be undervalued, underutilized, and undervalued. Do you know that feeling of déjà vu every Monday, of living on autopilot, doing the same thing, dealing with the same meetings, the same emails, the same goals that no longer excite you? This is what many call stability. But the truth is that, little by little, this cycle is costing you time, energy, and the opportunity to build something of your own. And here's a reflection that few have the courage to face. If your salary is your only source of income, you are not stable. You are exposed. All it takes is a merger, a restructuring, a decision from above for everything to change. So, where is that stability? Real security today does not come from a fixed paycheck. It comes from having options. It comes from developing skills that are valuable in the market. It comes from building sources of income that do not depend on a boss. Leaving the bubble does not mean giving up everything overnight. It means making room for something new, a side project, a digital specialization, an income that comes from your knowledge. It means understanding that a job can be a bridge, but should not be a prison. And, what's more, those who have the courage to change, even when they are afraid, tend to be the ones who grow the fastest, because the comfort zone is warm and welcoming. But nothing flourishes there. In the end, the real risk is in clinging to what seems safe while the world outside turns to silence. Invest in safety. Invest in something risk-free. This is the mentality that is embedded in the minds of millions of people. And, in a way, it is a comforting mentality. The idea of not losing anything, of guaranteeing a return without worries, who wouldn't like that? But the truth is that too safe is, more often than not, an invisible trap. Millions of dollars are sitting in savings accounts where, year after year, the money loses value. Savings. Did you know that even with the interest rates of some banks, the money you leave there is, in practice, devaluing due to inflation? Every penny is being slowly eaten away, and believe me, that is a high price to pay for something so safe. What these people don't realize is that being too safe is actually what prevents growth. You may be avoiding risks, but what you are missing out on is far more dangerous than any drop in the stock market. Investing in a low-risk CDB or in a fixed-income fund with almost zero returns seems like a prudent choice. But at what point does insurance become a false friend? When the return doesn't even keep up with inflation? When what you earn at the end of the year doesn't even cover the increases in the cost of living? And what are you doing with your money, in practice? Are you letting it work for you? You're letting it sleep. And when money sleeps, it doesn't create anything. It doesn't generate new opportunities. It doesn't take you anywhere. It's as if you had a money-making machine, and instead of turning it on and letting it work for you, you turn it off and say, "I want to be sure that nothing will go wrong." The price of seeking a 100% safe return is this: you trade risk for very low returns. And in the end, the real risk becomes your tight future with no options. Those who don't take risks don't get anywhere, and those who only invest in risk-free things become prisoners of a future that doesn't grow. But don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean you should rush into risky stocks or buy cryptocurrencies without knowing what you're doing. What I'm saying is that you need to diversify. You need to get out of the too safe and invest in investments that, although they may have some risk, also bring the potential for great returns. And look, that's where the magic begins. When you learn to measure risk, when you understand how investments work, and when you start building a diversified portfolio, the real risk you're avoiding is staying still. Investing in things that don't bring real returns, doesn't keep you safe in the long run. The path to financial freedom doesn't go through your comfort zone. It requires courage to make smart choices, even if you're afraid of losing a little in the process. And that's the secret to financial success: balancing risk and reward. But remember, the biggest risk of all is inaction. Because while you are worried about the security of your investment, the world out there is growing, and with every second that passes you are losing what you could be earning. And what you are losing, my friend, is not just money. It is time. Do you want real security? Then the best investment is the one that brings growth, the one that works for you and, yes, involves some risk. But it is this calculated risk that will take you out of your comfort zone and lead you to a much more prosperous financial life. 7th rule: don't talk about money with anyone. Since we were little, we've been bombarded with the famous advice, don't talk about money. And as much as this sounds like polite behavior, the truth is that this rule is destroying the financial future of millions of people. Here's the paradox. If you don't talk about money, you don't learn about it. And if you don't learn about money, what happens? It slips through your fingers, without you realizing it. This silence around finances creates true financial ignorance. And do you know what's even more dangerous? Many entire families are going broke because no one had the courage to sit down at the table and talk about how money really works. Instead, they try to hide their difficulties, avoiding any mention of the subject as if this were a way of protecting each other. But the reality is cruel. Silence only perpetuates problems. You probably know someone who has hidden debts or bought things on impulse without sharing them with their partner or family. And who pays the price in the end? The whole family. Let's be honest, money isn't just about numbers, it's about emotions, choices, dreams, and fears. And when you don't talk about it openly, those emotions become a ticking time bomb. Talking about money isn't something vulgar or inconvenient. On the contrary, it's a sign of intelligence and preparation. The ability to openly discuss finances is what strengthens relationships and builds solid foundations for the future of any family or couple. Imagine, for a second, what it would be like if you could have transparent conversations about finances with your partner, your children, or even your friends. How would that change the course of your decisions? How could it eliminate the fear of the unknown, the guilt over what wasn't done, and the anguish of not knowing what to do when debts arise? Talking about money isn't about who has more or who has less. It's about learning, teaching, planning, and, most importantly, preparing for life's surprises. And there's something even more powerful: passing on financial education from generation to generation. If you've never learned how to manage, invest, or save, how can you teach your kids to do so? That's where the wheel of financial ignorance keeps turning. But here's the good news. Everything can change if you start now. Take the taboo out of the conversation and start talking about money in a healthy, constructive way. Explain what you know, learn what you don't know, and most importantly, encourage others to do the same. And make no mistake, the simple act of talking about money can be the first step in breaking the cycle of poverty and ignorance. When you exchange ideas about what works and what doesn't, you begin to understand the mistakes others make, learn from their successes, and adjust your own strategies. Don't let the fear of appearing too interested or rude stop you from educating yourself and others. The people who succeed financially are the ones who challenged this rule, opened themselves up to learning, and started talking about their finances, without shame and with intelligence. The no money talk rule only serves to maintain the status quo. Talking about money wisely, courageously, and honestly is the first step to truly taking control of your financial life. If you want a prosperous future, start talking about it today. You've probably heard or even believed this old maxim: just contribute to Social Security and your retirement is guaranteed. It seems logical, doesn't it? After all, the government creates a retirement system and you contribute for years, so that in the end, you're entitled to this support when the time comes. The idea is simple, but that's exactly where the danger lies. This notion is outdated, and it can leave you in trouble in the future. Relying solely on Social Security is like trusting a leaky boat to cross a turbulent sea. You may float for a while, but eventually the water will come in, and you'll sink. The system may provide some support, but it's not prepared to guarantee the kind of life that most people want when they retire. Let's be clear. Social Security was designed to give you basic relief, and that's it. It wasn't created to allow you to travel the world, enjoy life without financial worries, or enjoy all the comforts you imagine for the future. You are relying on the government, but the government is not planning for your retirement. In many cases, the amount you receive from Social Security will not be enough to cover the costs of a simple life, much less to allow you to live comfortably and without financial worries. And the reality is that many people discover this too late. What you need to understand is that total dependence on Social Security is a failed retirement strategy. There is no magic formula to guarantee that it will cover all your needs, especially as inflation increases and the cost of living rises. Real retirement requires more than just contributing. It requires planning, consistent investing, and building sources of passive income. These are the pillars of a true and sustainable retirement. When you start investing early and strategically, you create a steady flow of money that is not dependent on foreign policies or changes in government. You are in control of your financial future. Passive income is what will give you true freedom. This could be through stock dividends, property rentals, book royalties, or other investments that generate income without the need for daily effort. Passive income, unlike Social Security, grows over time, not decreases. And here's the crux of the matter. Those who start building passive income sources early will reap the rewards when retirement arrives without having to rely on a public system that is increasingly far from reliable. And, frankly, no one wants to reach their 60s or 70s feeling like they're swimming against the current, waiting for a paycheck that barely covers the bills. To be successful in retirement, you need to invest in assets that work for you, creating a solid foundation that will continue to generate money while you're no longer actively in the job market. Those who rely solely on the system will find themselves with very little in the future. Social Security accounts do not cover the dreams of a comfortable or peaceful life. And as the population ages, Social Security payments are likely to become increasingly limited, with the risk that they won't be enough to support the lifestyle you want. So get started now. Don't put the entire burden of your future in the hands of a system that can't provide for everything you need. Create your own safety net, because at the end of the day, the only person who can provide for your retirement is you. Trust the experts. This is the most common advice you've ever heard, right? If you want to know about finance, investments, or any area of the market, just listen to those who know. But here's the problem. Many of the so-called experts are not as interested in your financial well-being as in the commission they earn for selling you something. They are there, ready to convince you to invest in funds full of abusive fees, push you into rigid plans, and even sell you unnecessary insurance, because these products work very well for their pockets but not for yours. It's a game where you are not the protagonist, but just a piece of the puzzle. And if you stop to think, how many of these experts really put your interests first? How many of them really care about what you are trying to achieve? Many of these professionals are more concerned with achieving their own goals than helping you achieve yours. It turns out that oftentimes the recommendations you receive are not about what is best for your risk profile or what makes the most sense for your financial future, but about what will generate the most commission for the person advising you. The market is full of complex products, full of little financial tricks that benefit the person selling them more than the person buying them. This is the trap that many fall into. The expert does not necessarily have your best interest in mind. And here is the bitter truth. The financial industry is one of the most profitable in the world, and many experts are paid to sell products that leave more money in their pockets, not yours. Have you ever wondered why it seems that the more you pay in fees and management costs, the less your investment grows? Or why, with each new recommendation from your advisor, you feel like you are always losing more money than you are earning? Now, imagine what happens when you blindly believe that this advice is designed to help you. This kind of unquestioning trust turns into a trap disguised as helpful advice. The truth is that being a smart investor requires you to study, question, and learn to discern what really makes sense for your financial future. Don't be tempted to believe that experts always have the right answer. They have the answer that's best for them. And the question you should always ask yourself is, will this really help me achieve my goals, or is it trapping me in a trap of excessive fees and costs? So, never underestimate the power of intelligent questioning. It's easy to feel comfortable trusting someone who claims to be an expert, but if you don't understand the implications of what's being recommended, the risk of losing money becomes even greater. Instead of simply trusting what you're told, seek knowledge. Ask how fees affect your return, what the real strategy behind that investment is, and why you're being directed to a certain product. Don't be afraid to ask these questions. Remember, truly successful investors are not those who simply follow the advice of experts. They are the ones who take the reins of their own financial learning. Ongoing financial education is key to protecting your money from false promises. Don't trust blindly. Ask questions, study, and above all, make sure that what is being offered truly aligns with your long-term financial goals. Wealth is only for those who are born rich. How many times have you heard this? It seems like a fact, doesn't it? As if, in order to be financially successful, you need to have been born with a silver spoon in your mouth. But the truth is that this belief is limiting and false. Yes, the starting point can be different. Those born into a wealthy family undoubtedly have certain advantages, such as access to a quality education, privileged networks of contacts, and, of course, a solid financial foundation. However, this is not enough to guarantee wealth. What really defines financial success is not where you start, but how you act from the point you are at. Today, more than ever, access to information and financial opportunities are within reach of those who seek it. The Internet, for example, has put a world of knowledge at your fingertips. Free courses, educational videos, podcasts from successful investors, all of this is available to anyone willing to learn. And the best part, you don't have to be the son of a tycoon to benefit from it. All you need to do is be willing to invest time and effort in your own development. The idea that wealth is exclusive to those born into a wealthy family is a form of self-sabotage. When you believe this, you not only limit your possibilities, but you also give up the chance to try. And the biggest problem is that by not trying, you never take the first step to change your reality. Wealth is a matter of pace and direction, not origin. What matters most is how much you are willing to move toward your goals. It is how much you seek to learn, act, and adapt. It is not about where you start, but how you progress and adapt along the way. People who start small but have discipline, continuous learning, and smart strategies end up creating a legacy of wealth. Let's look at the example of several stories of people who came from very difficult financial circumstances but managed to build enormous fortunes. Oprah Winfrey, for example, was born into extreme poverty, but her ability to learn, reinvent herself, and invest intelligently led her to a billion-dollar empire. Or Damon John, one of the investors on the Shark Tank show, who started out selling T-shirts on the streets and is now the owner of one of the largest clothing brands in the world. Neither of them were born rich, but their growth mindset and tireless effort to learn and apply knowledge is what made them achieve wealth. Now, think about those who say, "I can't," or "I can't do it." They are stuck in a scarcity mentality that prevents them from taking action. The abundance mentality is what leads people to challenge themselves and transform their realities. Those who think that wealth is something unattainable never get anywhere. Those who don't try never change their lives. The real question is not whether you were born rich or not. The crucial question is, are you willing to take the first step? Are you willing to learn, adapt, and act to change your situation? If you are, the world is full of opportunities for you to build your own wealth. And the best part is that you are not alone. You have the tools and access to knowledge that have never been so democratic before. So, stop waiting for the right moment or ideal conditions. Just start. The first step is the hardest, but it is also the one that starts the journey. And remember, wealth is not exclusive to those born into financial privilege. It is for those who seek it with determination and purpose. 11th rule: risk is the enemy indeed. Miscalculated risk is the enemy. But strategic risk is what allows you to multiply your money. Avoiding any discomfort is one way to ensure that your bank account never grows. Growth comes from action, and every true action has a little risk involved. Last rule, block 13. Time is money sounds wise, but in reality, it's limiting. Time is more precious than money. Money you can get back. Time, you can't. Trading hours for dollars only works up to a point. The key is to build assets that generate money even while you sleep. These 12 rules have become a sort of invisible manual for the middle class. But now that they are exposed, the choice is yours. Continue following what the world repeats or write your own rules. Rules that take you forward, not down the drain. If this video made you think differently, it's because something inside you was already asking for change. So don't let this get cold feet. Like it, subscribe to the Shrewd Mindset channel, and share it with anyone who still lives trapped by these silent rules. Freedom begins when the truth comes out. And today, it came out.